And basically what we're going to try to do today is talk a little bit about, first of all, some recent changes we've made to freeCodeCamp, some recent improvements, and we're also going to show our general workflow, how we get work done in freeCodeCamp, how our core team of developers, which is mostly me, Berkeley, and Ben here, the three people on the stream, but also involves, countless contributors and other people that do contribute quite a bit. I mean, some people contribute a whole lot. It's not like it's like a typical normal distribution of people supporting our community and contributing. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to just show a quick agenda for today. Basically, we're going to start talking about the new simplified portfolio pages, and then we're going to talk a little bit about some things we've recently implemented to handle people accidentally navigating away from the code, and some other improvements we've made on that front. We're going to talk a little bit about improvements to Camper News. All of our content's now Creative Commons license, which I'm going to talk about a little bit. We've built in some loop detection into our challenges to prevent you from accidentally creating infinite loops. I know this was an issue for a long time. We also have a new Bonefire hint system using CamperBot, and we've created some new chat rooms. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, let's do quick introductions for all three of us. For those of you who are watching who don't know who we are, I'll start. I'm Quincy. I'm a teacher at freeCodeCamp, and I spend about half of every day coding on freeCodeCamp, and the other half, you'll probably see a lot of tweets and Facebook posts and things like that. Generally, I handle a lot of like the social media. And if you send an email to team@freecodecamp.org, there's a good chance that I'll be the one who responds to it and tries to help you with your issue. So I do a lot of support as well. Next, let's introduce Berkeley. Berkeley Martinez.
Hi everyone. I'm Berkeley Martinez. I'm responsible for most of the architecture, backend stuff, and the DevOps stuff, making sure the servers are up, making sure our database is responding quickly, making sure things aren't laggy. So if it is laggy, you can just blame me.
Great. And then we also have Ben McMahon from Dublin.
Hi folks, I'm Ben. I'm some dude who was on the internet one day and decided to start working a bit with freeCodeCamp. I fix a few things, often I break them too, and I'm mainly responsible for making new challenges. So if there's new courseware stuff or suggestions people have for new courseware, you can fire a message to me on GitHub and I'll take a look.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining me. Normally we have like a much more lively live stream. Normally it's not just my mug on the screen. We have a lot of people, but this week we're focusing purely on like more technical things. So I just wanted to have the main technical contributors here on the call. We're going to be talking, as I said, a lot about our GitHub workflow and showing you kind of how you can create issues, create pull requests, and get code into freecodecamp.com itself, and just some general things about how open source projects work. So first of all, I wanted to go over a couple quick features that we've recently added to freeCodeCamp to make it a little bit better. What I'm going to do is something that I hope you'll never do. I'm going to go to manage my account, and I'm going to delete my account. Thank you to everyone who gave me lots of brownie points and things like that, but I'm gonna delete this account for the purpose of showing how our new account system works. So basically, I can sign in with anything. I'll just go ahead and sign in with I'll sign up with an email address. So I'll just use my personal email address here, which I'm going to do on my own screen. All right. So we're doing a live demo. I hope this doesn't break, but you'll see whenever I log in, I get the new approximately 8-minute onboarding scroll through, which it does include some GIFs and other things like that. We just wanted to make it a lot easier to get started without giving you 9 challenges right up front. So this was our solution to that. I hope you all like this. I just leave it as the home page because I figure some people are going to skip it and eventually they'll see it and they'll be like, well, maybe I should take time to work through this. But you can go to our map. Some people have asked about our learn button functionality. We will be implementing something like that again once we've gotten it working 100% bug free or close to it, because currently there are a lot of issues with, hey, we just hit 95,000 campers. So basically our new account system, you can see that like we have this placeholder art in the upper right hand corner. That's because I haven't linked any meaningful social media accounts, so I don't have an image there. I'm just going to click link with GitHub, and I've already granted GitHub permission previously, so I don't need to go through the process, but normally I would need to click I approve GitHub getting my email address. And you may be wondering what data we get with these different servers. Basically, we just get your email address and in some cases like a photo. But it actually, I think, will show you, like we ask for your public profile basically. So I can add Twitter here just with a single click and it'll redirect me back. And now if we go and look at my profile, you can see that I've got a Twitter account and a GitHub account. So there's no more typing. One thing that I really don't like is unless I'm in a typing mode where I want to be typing something, like when I'm typing code or I'm typing an answer to a long form question or something like that, or typing a tweet, I really want everything to be button driven interfaces. So we're going to see that user experience sensibility a lot more on freeCodeCamp. We're going to see button driven interfaces. So I'll just add my LinkedIn and I'll add my Google. And now we can navigate over here and we can see that I've got all 5 social media logins. So basically these are logins. This simultaneously gives us what we need in order to be able to show how to link to, say, your Google Plus page, for example, which I'm sure I have a neglected Google Plus page here. And it also gives you the ability to easily drill in and, well, basically, like now, if I log out, let's sign out of freeCodeCamp, which we have this big prominent button. I don't know why you'd want to sign out because, like, you probably don't ever sign out of Facebook or Twitter, right? But a lot of people ask for that, so we gave them that option. Maybe if they're using a public computer in the library or something. So now, when I try to log in with Google, it should just take me to the same account that I was at. Yeah. So it simultaneously adds all those and makes it to where you can sign in with any of the options and you'll get to the same account. A lot of the issues we've had previously where people have thought like, oh no, I lost my data. What happened was they accidentally, inadvertently created a second account. And that account had 0 progress. So if that ever happens, just don't delete your account or do anything dramatic. Just email me. And you can reach our support team, which these days is just me, just by emailing us right here. And we'll get you squared away. A lot of times I'll just go into the Mongo database on the back end and make changes directly to help people so that they don't need to delete accounts and do all that stuff. So that's the account creation and the new social media links. And you can see that we fixed a lot of bugs with our streaks. Our streaks are a little bit more generous. I think it's like 36 hours instead of 24 hours, just because we know that people are traveling, people are busy. They've got like a really long streak and they happen to hit like a hard bonfire. We don't want them to break their streak just because of that. Another thing I want to point out is you can actually, you get brownie points by submitting on Camper News as well. So if you submit something to Camper News, then it'll give you a point and that'll maintain your streak. And you also get a point every time somebody updates something you have posted. So for example, let's click on this. it's always going to open things in a new tab by default, and we can just scroll up here, and somebody submitted like the 45 best places to learn to code for free, and we're right up here at the top. Thankfully, they knew about us and they put us here. So if I like that article, I can just click upvote, and now it's upvoted. Like, no longer do you have to click to this second page. We still have this kind of metadata page called more info. We'll probably eventually do something more with this. We removed comments from this because they just weren't used very much. If I refresh, this should show that it's upvoted. Yeah. So we're really trying to make Camper News like a really seamless place where you can quickly submit links. And for example, I can submit a link to our YouTube page. I'll just click submit YouTube. Submit. And you can see it auto-populates pretty much everything. And boom, we've got that page. And now if we go to all links, you'll see that it just by virtue of it being new, it showed up pretty high in Camper News. And it assumes that if you submitted it, you uploaded it. And you can see that I did indeed get a point for doing that. So if you look at my streak on my profile, you'll see that I have 2 items. We give you 1 point just for signing up. So nobody has 0 points at any time. You always start with at least 1 point. All right. So Camper News is radically simplified. I also wanted to show that we have Creative Commons on all our assets. You may have heard that we have like a lot of digital assets that you can use if you ever want to use it. And you can see that we have this Creative Commons license on here now. So you can easily share it as long as you also license that content as share alike. It's a specific content, but you could even use freeCodeCamp content for commercial purposes if you wanted, as long as you include the Creative Commons license. And we've got all kinds of logos and things like that in here. And we can see St. Peter recently updated this. So basically, not only is freeCodeCamp completely open source, we are also completely Creative Commons. With that, I want to talk a little bit about code storage. So, Ben, do you want to talk a little bit about this? Ben in Berkeley?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. By the way, these are Ben and Berkeley's profiles. You can see Berkeley's here in San Francisco. Ben's in Dublin. You may have seen this. Keep calm and Alt F4. For the non-Windows users, what does Alt F4 do?
Alt F4 closes a currently open window. It's a really bad idea to actually push that if you're on Windows, if you're doing something important. Although most programs now have like a little pop-up that says you work first, so it's not that bad.
Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and let's share your screen, Ben, so we can see. You can talk a little bit about the loop detection that you and Berkeley implemented, and the code storage. 1 second. Make presenter. We're using GoToMeeting here. All right, and we should have your screen in just a moment.
Is it up? Who knows?
It takes a moment to get picked up. There we go. Okay.
Awesome. Okay. So code storage. Code storage was always for a long time was part of the framework. For whatever reason, it was only ever implemented into the Bonefires initially, and it mainly worked. But we decided what we wanted to do was we recently merged all the code behind.
Could you make your text a little bit bigger? Sorry to interrupt, Ben. Could you Control plus a few times? Thanks. Maybe not that big. Yeah, that's a good size.
So what we now have is we now have solutions that will save the HTML and jQuery challenges save as you type. So if you have hello QWERTY, for example, and you hit F5, it will pop back up. Yes, didn't make a lie out of me. Even if you hard reload which it won't let me do. But even if you hard reload, it'll still pop straight back up with the same solution you have. This is fantastic, particularly the unseen advantage to this is people who live in countries where internet or that kind of stuff isn't consistent. It means that all is not lost if your internet connection drops or you lose power. So that's a good thing. The instant problem we ran into though was that people started using things like script tags, and obviously because it's script you can put JavaScript in here, and so people will be typing while and they'd be like, okay, good, and put this here, and then they'll start doing, maybe I want to do, I don't know, 1 and it's not equal to it, but the second they type in 1, that code would try to execute and would cause an infinite loop. And to show you what this will do, if I open up the console and make it slightly bigger for people and whack it up, if I do this, the page should freeze. As you can see, that's my page now frozen. I can do nothing. Hopefully this won't ruin the thing.
Yeah, you may need to like force kill that tab. What happens on my computer when I get an infinite loop is my computer fan turns on usually. That's how I know I just triggered an infinite loop.
So as you can see, this is quite annoying because I have to go back. I have to go back to the channels and all that kind of stuff. But what we now have in place is that your code will be tested beforehand. Interesting. So if you have a loop, the tests won't pop up, which is a bit annoying, but we'll fix that. But effectively what will happen is you'll know straight away if it's a loop because it'll be something like this, or true is another one. But the point is your code will not save in that state. It was only because I'd forced in a loop that there was causing an issue. Oh, it's probably still not happy that this tab's open. Oh, right. So here comes Alt F4 if you like. TASKKILL/FTIMCHROME. Sorry about that. This is so unprofessional and horrible.
You're force killing. He's force killing Chrome in Windows.
Chrome is now dead.
All right, great.
Let's bring it back up and show that again. So the tests actually do work. I was lying about that not working. It was just the fact that Chrome had decided it didn't want to work anymore. But anyway, long story short, this now works as it should do. Tests pop up once the code is safe. So this now means that your experience overall should be a lot more consistent and a lot easier to deal with stuff like infinite loops. There have been some isolated cases where it has still executed, but I think that's cleared up now because Berkeley's implemented this fantastic system where all the scripts are versioned, so you're always guaranteed to get the new one.
Right.
The other thing we have noticed, and this is like a small nitpicky thing, but I think it was a camper, somebody mentioned to me that this says run code, which is not actually what it does. When you are typing things in, this is probably the document. As you can see, I'm quite slow. Which makes me horrible at everything I do. docment.ready. If you start putting stuff in here, it will actually work as it's meant to. It runs the code in real time. It just does it in such a way that if there is a problem, it won't freeze up your browser. So if I have like color blue, and this should change that color to blue. As you can see, that's worked. Probably not a great color because it's a bit moldy, but red is quite clear. So that button no longer runs code. Well, it actually does is it runs the tests against your code. So you'll see that if I change Quert to world, the test doesn't pass straight away. That's how it used to work. So now what you have to do is you have to hit this button. So actually what it is doing is it's running the tests. So I think now is like an optimal time to show you the workflow as to how you're meant to go through if you notice something like this or you notice a problem anywhere else on the site. It's simply enough. There's two ways to get here. You can go through GitHub or you can use the bug button. Either will bring you to the same page. But the long navigation is through here. Your freeCodeCamp now, you go to issues, you hit new, and you'll say a good descriptive title.
Yeah, of
Make
course.
Sure you have that link copied.
Right, but keep in mind, there's also this bug button that you could be pressing instead of navigating and copying the link and everything. Try clicking the bug button.
The bug button. The bug button should bring you straight to the issue page. It should bring you straight to here. For some reason, it decided not to work on my end, probably because of the bloody infinite loop I put in earlier. But that button does bring you straight to this page so that you can fill in your issue. It also autofills in a title, I think, if I remember correctly. so that you don't even have to do this. But really, a good descriptive title means that your issue is more likely to get looked at and addressed straight away. Because if we can figure out what's the problem, we can normally fix it there and then. So I'm going to title this, I don't know, in ACC or a copy in run button. And you'll post your message. I noticed on this challenge that the button to run the test still runs code. And what's really helpful at this point in time is if you take a screenshot. Now, Windows, happily enough, comes with a tool called Snipping Tool straight out of the box, which looks like, if it'll just do as I tell it to and come over from another screen, looks like that. You hit new, screen kind of goes all white, and you drag a box, helps you from the right page. You drag a box around the issue that you think is the problem. It'll come up here. Because of the way GitHub works, you can hit Control-C, or you can do File, Copy, just somewhere. You can do Control-C, you can paste it straight in. Uploads it, has a little attachment. And if we go into preview, my screenshot's there. So straight away, when one of us is looking at the issue, we can see, so this fella is saying that the copy's wrong, and we can say, oh yeah, it does still say run code. I think this should, oops, extra H there, should say run tests. Submit your issue. Up it goes. Simple as that.
Great.
What will then happen is either it'll be seen or it'll be labeled by one of the contributors or people with access to do it. It'll be labeled as, like, I don't know, bugged, and it's confirmed because we've seen it. And at that point, either it'll be addressed or another camper will be helpful enough to submit a pull request to fix it. So I think.
And I think that's I think that might be a good point for us to hand it over to Berkeley. Berkeley, do you want to do a pull request and fix this issue?
Sure, yeah, sorry, I was muted.
Yeah. So I can tell you that it's located in, I think, the 3 different show views: show HTML and show JS, and maybe show Bonefire. I think that's still a separate view. It shows zipline. So we just need to change the copy on that button. Okay. So first, I'm going to promote you to presenter, Berkeley.
Okay.
So we'll soon be able to see Berkeley's screen.
What does I have to download something?
Oh yeah, you can't share to your web.
Alright, let me close some things here. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep, popped up.
We can see it.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm on staging. Now I make sure I have latest. Let's create a fork. And let's call this fix submit button copy. And so these should all be in server views and in CoreSource folder. So if I search for run code, and we want to change this to run test to be a little more accurate, correct?
Yes, run tests.
Okay. Let's change this to run test. That's one down.
And we can probably just keep it like uppercase for run and keep the other one lowercase, like run tests could be lowercase, like we had previously. Yeah, run tests, plural. Because there are usually more than one test.
Okay.
So what Berkeley's doing is he's actually modifying you'll notice, first of all, he's using Vim, which is kind of an advanced text editor. And he's going through and he's changing the copy in all of the HTML files, which in freeCodeCamp.org freecode.com's repository, we're using a tool called Jade. So it's basically an easier way to write HTML than writing raw HTML, but he could just as easily be doing these changes in HTML. He's changing the file at the HTML level where we have this button component, or it's not a component yet. It will eventually become a component, but it's basically these traditional HTML views, and he's just modifying the copy there.
All right, so it looks like our HTML views have the updated button test. Let's check out Bonefires, make sure Bonefires is updated. Here we can see run tests.
Mm-hmm.
And one more we need to check is the jQuery challenges. So there you go, run tests. Okay, so now I've verified that my changes are what I want them to be. We can go ahead and add them to the commit here. So I can see I've staged them to be committed. So now I'm going to actually commit. So here I'll add a very good description of what I've done. So we always want to start out with fix add change. It's just going to set this current branch to track the remote branch. So origin is my remote branch, and oops, sorry about that. And because my origin is the main repository, it will show up in the main repository. But for the folks at home, your origin should be your forked repository on GitHub.
Right. Just to stop and clarify what Berkeley's saying, whenever you make changes to an open source project, you shouldn't try to make them directly on the open source project. You should fork the open source project, which means make a copy of it, and then push your changes up to that. And then you can create a pull request, or PR as they're often called, a pull request, and then that will be requesting that the code that you've just been written be pulled into the original open source project.
Yes. And so here I'm declaring which remote I'm pushing to. And then I'm going to tell Git which branch I want to push. So I want to push submit fix or submit button copy. And I want to push it to a new branch on the remote repository with the same name, submit button copy. So let's submit that. You'll see here, Git tells us it created a new branch on the remote and pushed our fix submit button copy up to fix submit button copy. And so if we go to freeCodeCamp, GitHub is very convenient, and it tells you right away, hey, you submitted a new branch less than a minute ago. And it gives you a nice shiny button here, compare and pull request. And you can see here, I'm requesting to have my changes merged into the staging branch, which is where you want your changes to be. And it shows you a breakdown of the changes I've made. So I've replaced code here with test.
Berkeley, just so you know, you may need to slow down just a little bit. Your page is still kind of refreshing. Yeah, there we go. So you can see on the left is the original and the right is the updated. Like, so the left is the state on our staging branch, on freeCodeCamp staging branch. The right side is the code on Berkeley's fork of freeCodeCamp that he just committed to.
Yes. All right, and so here you can see the title that I added in the commit. And it is description of the changes and the issue it closes. Let's see what else. Yeah, once you're satisfied that your changes are ready to be merged, you can just go ahead and hit create pull request.
Excellent.
So now you can see I'm in the main repository. It links directly to the issue that it closes. Has a very good description, very good title. and then there's here places to make comments. One important thing to note is that if for whatever reason one of us wants you to change something specifically, like let's say instead of run test, we wanted it to be run test, we commented here, hey, this should be run test. All you really have to do to update this pull request is make your changes and push to the same branch. GitHub will automatically detect that you've made changes and update the pull request. Okay. Quincy or Ben, do you want to merge the changes after queuing?
Ben, after you, my friend. Why don't you share your screen? I'll make you presenter, and you can merge it on your side.
Sure. Let me get the pull request opened up.
Sure. I'm going to make you presenter and go to meeting.
Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Cool. That should be through now, hopefully.
All right, we can see it.
No idea.
Yeah, we can see your screen.
Fantastic. So, pull requests, this is very much what we'll be doing, but it's interesting to see how it works. So, best practice that we'll do is you'll go through here and you'll take a look at what the actual changes were, because the description could say one thing and it could do something else. And that is actually a problem you can sometimes get, where people will try and fix an initial issue and I'll go and fix other things, but the description only mentions the initial fix. So you do have to go through here and look. At that point, depending on what it is, we'll pull it down locally and do a check on it. Oftentimes we get changes to tests and challenges or changes to copy. If it's copy, we can read it normally, but if it's changes to tests in particular, they have to be made sure that A, that they work, and B, that they're in line with what the challenge was initially about. But in this case, I can clearly see it's Jade, so it's not going to most likely not going to have a linting error. I can see it's tabbed properly, and literally, GitHub is nice enough to highlight the fact that only a word was changed and nothing else, so I can assess quite quickly. This is safe enough. Looks good. I'm going to merge the pull request. We do have the option to change the title, but I don't think anyone's ever done that. You can hit confirm, and it's true. And we can now actually, if we go back to the repository and find that one of the files anyway, in the code base, it'll be there. Course with show HTML, and it's about there. Run tests. And that is that Berkeley's changed, or whoever will make the change, pulled in. At that point then, that will not be seen on the server straight away. So if you see a pull request being merged in, and then you go straight to the page and you go, oh, it's going to be there, and it's not, do not panic. We don't deploy on every pull request merged in. That has to be done separately, but you'll see every now and again there'll be like a block, there'll be a point in the server deploy, and you might notice it happening because there'll be one or two or maybe three things that are slightly different. I just thought I'd mention that to people in case they're getting pull requests starting off and they're really excited and then they saw a change in there. Don't panic, it's coming. But oftentimes it's like only when one of us sits down to go through all the pull requests or makes a change ourselves, that stuff will get pushed to production, if you like. So if somebody is able to push to production, I'm just not going to do it on the screen for obvious reasons. Can't let all the stuff get out. And we'll go and take a look at freeCodeCamp to changes. So I'm going to go through quickly before the thing is actually deployed.
Yeah.
So I can show people it is in fact the old thing. We're not cheating. This isn't magic. It will still say run code. But if Berkeley, maybe if you have it deployed and give me a shout when it's done, I can reload the page and we can show the magic.
Yeah, so I deployed it on the beta website.
On the beta, sorry. So beta is effectively, please don't try and everybody go to it because it's only a small thing. But effectively beta is the early version of the stuff that we use to see will it work. Oftentimes it'll work locally, and then when you push it to an actual server it doesn't work, just because that's the way things are. But we should be able to go here, and it will now say, I'll zoom in a bit so people can see, run tests. And that is the kind of magic you get.
Yeah, thanks for deploying that, Berkeley. So again, to clarify what Ben's saying, just because your pull request has been accepted does not mean it will immediately, the change won't necessarily immediately show up in production, but it will get pushed eventually when we get around to pushing to production. Right now, because production, Berkeley's getting ready to do some cool configurations to freeCodeCamp.org, the production site. So we just decided to push to beta instead. We will be pushing new features to beta before they're available on freeCodeCamp.com. If you're just interested in like being a beta tester, let us know. We actually have a chat room, and I think this is actually a good point for me to hop over and show how we've added some new chat rooms. So thank you, gentlemen, for this introduction to our pull requests. Real quick before we move on, though, could we talk a little bit about waffle.io? Would you guys like to see waffle.io?
I can pull it up if you want.
Sure. Yeah, why don't you pull it up real quick? So waffle.io is kind of like Trello for GitHub issues. That's a good way of looking at it. It's a Kanban style board for GitHub issues. So you can see that we've got these different columns here, and all of our 281, most of our 300 plus issues are right here in the backlog column. So you can see these are submitted by campers. We get maybe 20 or 30 new issues a day, and we have several people who are actively going through and grooming these issues and making sure that they're not duplicate issues, making sure that they are that they have all the details. So often they'll ask further questions, and then maybe you could show like hypothetically if we took this done thing, we've already submitted it, but perhaps we could mark up one of these existing challenges in Waffle real quick, or one of these existing GitHub issues, just to show them a little bit about what it looks like. So maybe just click this top one. Doesn't recognize image source. Let's just take a look at that.
Sure. I think I know it's going to be the issue. So you get this nice little description and everything. I personally prefer to using GitHub because it's a bit more search and that kind of stuff. But effectively, if you submit an issue, it will come here and we'll be able to view it in this kind of environment. So we can go, challenge as an issue, please grab and reduce it, create your image checks about how much issues have to work, image on different places, image shows up right, actually bit.loi. So he has provided, handily enough, a screenshot so that we can actually take a look at what's going wrong. What is going wrong? That is interesting.
I don't see what the exact issue is here.
No.
Let's reread the issue just to make sure that there is not, because as far as I know from these challenges, both of these images should show up, and they look like they're showing up in his view.
Yeah. Create the new image. I get correct check marks having two images. Correct doesn't seem to work. I have tried placing the image in a different place. The image shows up right. So that is tested as a regex. So what might be going wrong is the regex might be wrong. So
he has HTTP. No, I mean that looks. I
did look for that.
Yeah,
that is a good one. The old incorrect HTTP. So all the challenges for people who are interested in fixing tests, scripts, etc. Where you go on the GitHub page is seed, challenges, and that is the list of challenges. I think the headers we have in the files match the ones in the map page. They might be slightly different.
Yeah, HTML5 and CSS right here.
Be able to find it quick enough. So HTML5 and CSS. The challenge name is searchable. So make images mobile responsive. Images responsive. Should have got it for me. Make mo. Okay, it's not going to let me do it.
Wait a second. I think this is a Bootstrap challenge. So we need to navigate to the Bootstrap JSON file. Sorry about that.
So there's right there one of the kind of discrepancies we can sometimes get, but not that bad. Everything is either in one place or the other. There you go. I had the word making and it was saying this to me. So we can see it is in fact a regular expression for anybody who is a fan of those. So that's looking for a backslash, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean this could be an issue.
Escaping.
That was just backslash escaping the quotes, the double quotes. So it's possible that he had single quotes wrapping it. Could you check to see if he had single quotes?
No, he used double quotes.
He used double quotes.
He did that. Right, SEC running cats. So at this point, because we cannot see the issue straight away, the best thing to do is to go to it and go, well, can I pass the challenge? So I need to make another image. I'm just going to copy and paste. Hello? Copy and paste. Okay. Cool. Put that back. Didn't mean to do that. Remove the A from the end. The other thing is that this isn't self-closed, which could have been the issue.
So technically, HTML5 spec says you shouldn't use self-closing tags. There's no reason to do that, like slash. So I've updated all the challenges already to reflect that. We don't teach that anymore.
The other part of this challenge is to set it so that it uses this class, which we can just pop straight in. What it should do now is it worked. So we now have the interesting situation that I can pass the test, but this person cannot. And what we have to now figure out is why that is the case. Open, close, open, close. So in this situation, it could just be a discrepancy as a once-off type of thing. So because I cannot replicate this, I'm going to go back to the person and say, hi there, I'm going to get the name so I'm not just talking to myself. Copy that in.
It's because he's using a source attribute instead of an href attribute.
Ah, okay, good eye.
Source, no. No, it is source.
It should be source for the image.
Take source.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I am unable to replicate this myself. Can you check that you are still unable to pass this challenge and report back? Also,
oh wait, use a question mark, not an exclamation point, because that's a question. Sorry, I'm nitpicking.
Right. Well, I forget what I'm typing as I'm typing it. So
yeah, and
also, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, and what I was gonna say is like basically we throw this in at the end of every question, like which browser are you using and which operating system, you know.
He also has two duplicate image tags that is supposed to be in the same A tag.
No, but the regex shouldn't be firing as wrong. The problem is with that the test itself, the regex test, and it's marking it wrong, which it shouldn't do. It shouldn't really care about it. Like if there's a HTML structure one, there would definitely be that, I'd say. But because of the fact that it is to do with regex, and also he says in the issue that he moves it around. So we can label this as blocked. All that blocked means that we are waiting for a response before we can take further action, because I can't replicate this.
Yeah.
And he hasn't said what priorities are, anything specific like that. So there's nothing more I can really do to evaluate whether it's a problem or not.
Yeah,
the other thing is that we could have had a pull request that fixed this that didn't say it. So this could be an old issue, although it was 2 minutes ago, so that's unlikely. But it does happen sometimes that we have issues that were fixed and that we don't know that they're fixed.
Which is why we need to stay on top of the pull requests. Which is why normally, like, the first thing I do when I go look at the issues is I look at the pull requests and see if we can merge those in. Because that way, you're potentially closing a whole lot of the issues. If you start looking through the issues, then you're going to find a lot of issues that are already actually addressed by existing pull requests.
But you can see that actually with the whole of how Waffle works, that it is no longer in the backlog. It was 2848. It's now waiting for a response, which is what we are now waiting for. Waiting for that person to come back and say, hey, try that again, it did work, or I'm in Safari and it didn't work. Safari, interestingly enough, doesn't seem to like our test suite at all. So that could be the issue, but we don't know because we don't know what browser he's using, and yeah. So there's other variables like that we have to watch out for, because I'm using Chrome and I know Chrome works, but it could be a case that it's a funny browser.
Right.
But yeah, what else we can close?
So another thing about Waffle is you can, just like Trello, you can like grab and drag between columns. And these are not like rigorous column, like these aren't rigid. We decided to set up our columns this way. If you use Waffle, you can set it up however you want. And just to show you, just like everything we do is open source, I'm going to open Waffle in an incognito mode, and you'll be able to see this exact same interface. Like everything we do at freeCodeCamp is as transparent as possible. We want you to see everything that goes on. We want you to come back and like tour the entire sausage factory essentially, and like know exactly what is going into your sausage, because
Quincy, you need to share your screen.
sure, because I mean, we believe in transparency. We believe it's a virtue, and open source is all about transparency. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Oops. Show my screen. So I'm sharing my screen with Ben in Berkeley now. So even though I'm in incognito mode, I'm not authenticated. I can still come through and take a look at all the issues. It's a pretty cool app. So now that we've gone through how we deal with issues, how we create issues, how we solve them, how we create a pull request, how we ultimately merge them back into freeCodeCamp, I hope that gives you some insight into what happens behind the scenes when you create an issue and how we deal with that. And we have a lot of people that are actively contributing and managing our issues. And if you're interested in becoming one of those people, if you're frequently hanging out on our issues and commenting on them and helping us gradually get toward solutions to those issues or submit pull requests, please reach out to us, reach out to Berkeley, and we would love to give you a little bit more power in terms of actually accessing and closing issues down the line. But it's basically a meritocracy. Basically, whoever does the work, whoever shows up consistently and is helpful and things like that, those are the people that get more responsibility. That's how open source generally works. It doesn't really matter whether you are somebody who works at a big tech company or you're just some guy in his closet. If you're coming repeatedly to do the work and invest the time and energy, then open source will reward you with the esteem of being a big open source contributor. And I am proud to say that freeCodeCamp has been a very successful open source project so far, and it's going to continue to succeed, I hope. But as of today, we are the 43rd most starred repository on GitHub, period. The number one is Bootstrap with 80,000 stars. And freeCodeCamp has, let me see if I can go to the page real quick. We have nearly a quarter of that. So we're getting to kind of close to the extreme, and we're already passing a lot of other big open source projects that you've heard about. So we really appreciate your contributions. Even when you're creating an issue, that's a contribution to freeCodeCamp, and that's making freeCodeCamp better. And the more time and energy you can put into those issues, the better. So let's say hypothetically, I want to create a new issue. If you have time to look at these guidelines for contributing, click on this, and you'll see that Ben Schenker, he is one of the campers who's been actively working on improving our issues. This should link to the, okay, here it is. So we have an article on our wiki about contributing issues and checking to make sure that it's a new issue and not a duplicate issue. Things like that, like searching for your issue on GitHub. He's written a number of articles, and I even created this little GIF to show you how you can go about searching for an existing issue. We really appreciate any time and energy you can put into creating an issue before you submit it. That said, we don't want to scare people off from creating issues by creating a wall of protocol. So if you don't have time and you think you genuinely discovered something, err on the side of creating an issue, please. While we're talking about the wiki, I wanted to show you some cool things. So let me see if I can pull it up. Bonefire wiki template. So this is just a taste of things to come. Many of you have already been using CamperBot. I hope you all find CamperBot to be really helpful. I'm actually going to take a look at the questions. I'm sure you all have some questions. But I just want to show you very quickly that we plan to have kind of a hint system for our bonfires, where if you hit a wall, you simply can't get through it, you can go into the chat and ask for bonfire hint. And actually, I think I have this open here. So you can see that campers have been asking for hints, and it'll give some basic hints. Right now we're just playing around with the functionality, but this is coming soon. Pretty soon it'll actually give you a series of hints up to the actual solution to that bonfire. If you really cannot do it, you can actually even pull up the solution, and it'll even have a code explanation. So one of the things we're doing right now is we're actively trying to expand the number of wiki articles, and you can see that we've got 357 wiki articles. Many of these are created by Rafael Rodriguez in New York, and we're going to actively continue to expand these so that CamperBot gets more and more helpful, and so that CamperBot is better able to fetch content for you. And we'll be creating some additional wiki articles on using CamperBot effectively as well. Very quickly, before we get to questions, the one last thing I want to talk about is that we have created some new chat rooms for a variety of things that I just want to quickly highlight. These are all new, so they may not be very active yet, but they will hopefully eventually be quite active. The first one that I want to talk about is coding jobs, which I'll just open right here. So coding jobs is a place where campers talk about getting coding jobs, interviewing, all of those things that are involved in getting a job that don't necessarily have to do with coding itself, but have to do with proving that to an employer that you're capable of coding. So yes, we do have a chat room where we talk about that. And we talk about, how to read a job posting. We talk about all these things. So we're going to create a lot of wiki articles, and hopefully you all will help us create a lot of great wiki articles about this stuff too. Because obviously at the end of your study or throughout your study, you'll probably want to be going out networking and applying for jobs, just to get better at applying for jobs and hopefully to get a job early on so that you can work and continue to learn and basically get paid to learn. That's the ideal situation. Another room that we have that has been pretty popular is the You Can Do This room. Learning to code is hard, and it takes a lot of effort and a lot of motivation. I mean, learning to code is really a motivational challenge. It's much more of a motivational challenge than an intellectual challenge, because anyone who can sit down and put in the time and the effort and really focus on learning to code and practice can learn to code. You see this time and time again, people coming from completely different walks of life, learning to code, going out and getting a coding job. So we created this You Can Do This room where people can kind of come in and talk about their feelings and any self-doubt they may feel, and just basically keep each other motivated. That's very important. And we even have a You Can Do This Facebook group as well that I can link to later, that basically people just throw up these motivational articles and facts about learning to code. It's pretty exciting. Another room I wanted to talk about is we have our live coding room. And as you know, we stream on Twitch. You are probably watching this on Twitch. You may be watching this on YouTube later, which is fine. But we have a lot of campers who stream, and we're always trying to get more campers streaming. And if you join this room, live coding, you will be able to better participate in a lot of the upcoming streams, and we'll even help you. We'll hop on a call with you and help you actually get streaming, because it's not like a snap your fingers type process. It does take a little bit of time. And then we also have the code review room, where you can give and receive constructive criticism regarding your code, which is pretty fun. I mean, you can see Brianna was active in here a few hours ago. So there's a lot of opportunity to share your work and just get feedback on whatever you happen to be doing. We have the Halfway Club, which is a prestigious club of people who have finished freeCodeCamp completely. Essentially, they finished everything but the nonprofit projects. They finished all the base jumps, all the zip lines, all the bonfires, and are ready to start doing the nonprofit projects. Then we also have the wiki room, where people can discuss and coordinate expanding the wiki. And we also have an issues room, where we can potentially talk about issues. Again, this is a very new room. I don't even know if it's in heavy use. We have a data science room, where campers are talking about using data, public data from freeCodeCamp, to glean insights about how we can do things better.
There's a good activity graph in there actually further up. I think it was over a week's period. One of them had graphed the usage. I think the highest day was Tuesday. I think they found.
The highest day is Tuesday. That totally jives with what I've seen from Google Analytics. I could scroll up and try to find it, but
I don't think it's too far up.
Do you know approximately when they posted it? Was it in August?
Oh yeah, it was in August. And it wouldn't be that far back. I think it was probably not expanded. It's probably further down. It wasn't expanded when you went past it.
Was it in graph form?
Yeah. It was an image that it was of a graph that had been rendered. I think it could have been a code pen. It was cool anyway. Oh, that one there. The code pen you have in front of you.
All right, let's take a look at this. This is our data in the wild. Okay, this is activity human messages in the FCC help channel. We've got a nice graph. We can see it's spiking certain periods of time. I don't know why it was flat here. They must have not sampled that section of data. But these are the kinds of... I'm sorry?
Was that Slack that period?
I think that's probably exactly what happened. This was when we were using Slack. And then we switched back to GitHub, or to Gitter. I couldn't be happier with that decision, by the way. Now that we have... Slackbot was a pale comparison to how awesome CamperBot is. And, of course, we have DC to thank and many other campers who've contributed to that. If you want to help expand CamperBot, you can do that as well. And then we have a room to talk about design in general. If you are interested in doing web design or user experience design or visual design, graphic design, the other types of different design out there. And importantly, we have this room called Book Club. And this is where we're going to talk about a variety of different coding books, because freeCodeCamp is just one resource. There are many, many, many excellent resources out there. And we don't want you to think that freeCodeCamp by itself will teach you absolutely everything, because nothing can. But there are just a huge range of free resources out there as well. So this is just some of them. And there are also some excellent podcasts and video series in addition to books. And so we've got this list that we published a few months ago of free resources, which I'll drop in the chat, which I'm going to go to the chat right now. Actually, I accidentally closed it. So unfortunately, I don't have the chat log leading up to now. So if you have a question, we're running a little bit over time, but that's okay. If you have a question at this point, I think now would be a great time for us to go over it. Where's the chat? Okay, here it is. Great. I'm the last post in Book Club. Okay, cool. Thanks, Corn Black. So everyone watching who has questions about what we've talked about today, questions about the future of freeCodeCamp, please feel free to post them in our questions section right here. In the meantime, was there anything else, Ben or Berkeley, that either of you gentlemen wanted to talk about?
I could talk about my list of work I need to get into doing, the new and upcoming challenges that are soon, in quotes, to be added. So I do have an actual workflow to this, and I'll read it out for you now. So at the moment, we have a section on Ajax that is under construction. You can see it in the seed directory on the GitHub, and it is very, very young. It needs a bit of work. It's effectively got, I think Quincy started off with the skeleton, and I'm going to have to go and transform that into actual challenges. So for all the people who were confused or upset, there's nothing on APIs consuming them. Good news, it is in fact coming. After that, I was thinking of doing a bit more on the base JS section, add a bit more things, add expand some things, it'll probably get more, like it'll end up as like hundreds of challenges, who knows. But it's currently, I think, sitting at 56 without looking.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's closer to 70, 80, 90, 100 by the end of the year, depending on how much I expand things. And if the S6 starts becoming supported, that'll have to be added too. The final thing is the object-oriented and functional programming section, which is quite sparse at the moment. It's 11 challenges, and all it really is, it's the handy object-oriented methods and functional methods that I find useful when doing the bonfires. I think there's 11 challenges, and it does things like map, reduce, filter, which are critical to some of them. Otherwise, they become horrifically large loops and nested, weird recursion. So if you're stuck on bonfires, or you're looking to just get a bit better, and you aren't familiar with those methods, that is certainly something worth checking out. And it's soon to get a lot bigger, I hope. But again, I have to do this stuff first before I get to that. I was also thinking there's a zipline that I was slightly thinking of doing. It's going to be like a small type of game thing, but I haven't put much thought or research into that yet, so that's a maybe. And if people have suggestions, like I was saying earlier, feel free to message me in Gitter. Because even if your suggestion isn't taken as a whole section, it might be stuck in with current challenges. There's also thoughts about D3JS. I spent the entirety of yesterday just looking at the graphs in front of their website, because I'm weird like that and I love those kind of things. There is a React curriculum incoming. It's currently not being made. It is incoming though. So people are looking for a good resource in React. Hopefully will be the best one, because I don't think there actually is one at the moment.
Unfortunately, no. There might be some videos on Udemy, like some paid resources, but to my knowledge, there's no really good, like certainly free resource. And even if there is, it's probably not interactive.
Like the docs are the best, to be honest. Yeah. The official documents, and they're a bit daunting to begin with. So that is, for me, that's my, if you like, to-do list for the future, if you like. If people were curious to know what's their kind of ETA and challenges and what the plan is. So hopefully that'll get people excited, and if people see other people asking about it in the chat, you can refer them to this or tell them what's coming up. That is basically my plan for the rest of the year, if I can, to get those kind of cool challenges out that are going to get people, hopefully with a bit more useful knowledge they can use with the base jumps and the zip lines, and we can kind of bridge that gap a bit better between those and the bonfires.
Great. And just so everybody knows, I've been doing the instructional design up until this point, or up until recently. I did 100% of the instructional design myself, but now Ben is really starting to come in, and he and I are kind of working on a lot of these challenges together, and a lot of them, he literally created the JavaScript curriculum. I think I created maybe the first 10 challenges, and he created the rest of it. And then we just work together to kind of refine it and polish it. And it's still being polished. Our philosophy is ship early. Done is better than perfect. As you may have seen that little thing in the recent blog post. We definitely feel that way. So this is an open source project. Things are evolving. Please don't panic if you see we've added challenges behind what you've already done. You can go back and do those if you want. You don't have to. Just keep moving. But note that everything we're doing is because we want to make freeCodeCamp better. And we want freeCodeCamp to be the best place to learn to code in the world. I think we can get there. I mean, in many respects, arguably, we're already there. So one thing a lot of people ask me about freeCodeCamp before we get to questions is they say like, hey, can I donate money to freeCodeCamp? Or, you know, can I get some arrangements for freeCodeCamp to be able to have this resource for free, things like that. I really appreciate the goodwill that everybody's channeling our way. If you're really interested in helping, there are two clear ways that you can help. The first, of course, is by contributing directly to our open source project through pull requests. But the second way that is much more immediate, that literally anyone can do, is just please go out and tell your friends about freeCodeCamp. freeCodeCamp does not advertise. We probably, I mean, aside from our Twitter, Facebook, and my Quora posts, like we really don't do any outreach at all. Like the only way that people will hear about freeCodeCamp is if you tell them about freeCodeCamp. So please go out and tell your friends, anyone you know who might be interested in learning to code and getting a coding job, or even like beefing up their coding skills so they can improve their current career, which a lot of our campers do that. They get promotions within their companies because suddenly they're so much more productive because they're able to code in addition to doing what they previously did. So anyone you think that might benefit, please tell them about us. Please invite your friends to our campsites on Facebook. If you think people in your city would be interested in coming to coding related events, invite them to our open Facebook groups. Like literally anybody can join those groups. They're open. And that would be great. With that, I think we should get to questions. So what I'm going to do is, since I announced the questions, I'm going to scroll back up and we're just going to go ahead and scroll through here. So yes, somebody commented that I don't have a beard. My in-laws are in town and they think they're Chinese and they think that beards are unbecoming. And they claim that I look homeless, like homeless San Francisco Quincy, when they see me with a beard. So I bowed to pressure and shaved, but I will grow the beard out once they're gone. Is it possible to restrict CamperBot's responses to be visible only to the user CamperBot is responding to? Berkeley, Ben, do either of you want to talk about that?
I could, but I'm not like directly involved with the project. Sadly, I'd like to do a bit, but of course, you know, chances get built and that kind of stuff. But the problem with that is concurrency at the moment. So there's two problems. First of all, concurrency is difficult enough to handle the best of times, but I think it could be done. The biggest issue was the limit that we have with Gitter's API is that they were actually, I think they messaged one of us, I think it was you, Quincy, and they said CamperBot is going nuts with the API. It's joining 1,000 rooms when I go or something. It was too high for daylight anyway. So the issue with the private message is that each private message is actually a room with only 2 people in it. It's the way it actually works. Each private message is its own individual room. So that would mean CamperBot's API, when CamperBot's booted up, it would join every single room, which would easily be in the thousands, considering there's 20,000 people in the main chat room. And I think we hit 90k recently there in the free camp overall. So the problem would therefore be is that the API would instantly hit a limit and cut off CamperBot. And I had that before. We had an issue with @all once, just so people know. @all doesn't work for nobody, it only works for admins. So people are trying that, it actually doesn't work. But I think I did it as like a test to see, I wonder if it would work. And I did thanks @all. Nobody got brownie points, but CamperBot didn't like it. I think the API actually stopped them. But yes, so there's issues with throughput on Gitter's end, and we don't want to be like upsetting them by bombarding it with this automatic thing. There is people we'd like to. I know DC wants to have it so that private messages work. Like Bonefire hints would be that nice if you hit hint and it just message you the hint instead of sending you to another room. But at the moment, the issue is with joining 20k plus rooms. Just isn't something that's going to happen.
Great.
I think there's a redesign in progress, or like work being done to make it wait for notifications and use that kind of workflow, but it's not done yet. If it is being done, so you know, we're sorry it doesn't work that way, but there's not much we can really do without changing the way Gitter works and moving the mountains. So.
Thanks for the comprehensive answer. So yeah, hopefully we'll fix that eventually. Ideally, Camperbot would interact through private messages, but I mean, I don't think it's too big of a deal. It does make the chat room a little bit noisier, but you know, you shouldn't be ashamed to ask for help. That's one of the key things. Like if you're asking Camperbot for help, or if you're using Camperbot to pull up a wiki article to show somebody else, you know, we're all about transparency. You've watched me stream, and I make lots of mistakes, and if I can make lots of mistakes as a relatively experienced developer, then you can assume that pretty much everybody makes mistakes. So don't be bashful about asking Camperbot for help if that's the issue. So
the thing is, Camperbot is fairly quiet. Actually, it's not the biggest problem that I have done is with tanks. It's very quick to correct people on how to correctly use the tanks command.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put the even TNKS in anywhere, it instantly goes, by the way, you should use @tanksman directly.
Yeah.
Which is okay. It probably could be turned down, but other than that, it is very much will only speak when spoken to.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't want Slackbot type interaction where it's constantly messaging people or saying things. It's constantly responding in an unwelcome, artificial kind of saccharine way. So yeah, we're going to try to keep Camperbot very much like Camperbot just hangs out and listens for commands and goes and handles those commands like the computer you see in Star Trek. I mean, the computer in Star Trek doesn't suddenly start dropping interesting tidbits in the middle of your conversation. The computer does what you ask it to do when you ask it to do it. And that's kind of many people's vision, certainly Google's vision for the future of artificial intelligence and these kinds of interactions. And that's how we want Camperbot to be. So the next question, Sid Gupta asked an excellent question. Can we skip the projects and complete the rest of the map first? Or should we follow the given order strictly? Please feel free to jump around if that's what you feel so inclined to do. Of course, we are spending a ton of time and energy trying to make the challenges flow and trying to make everything of consistent difficulty increase. Just like a good video game, you don't go and it doesn't suddenly spike and you have a ridiculously hard boss and then it goes back to really easy gameplay. That's bad, right? You want to keep things consistently increasing in difficulty at a sane rate. And that's how we're trying to design freeCodeCamp's curriculum. So if you want to jump around and just, you can go straight to the zip lines. If you want to actually do the nonprofit projects, or if you want to get the certificates, you'll actually need to complete the required challenges. And for the front-end certificate, which I apologize, we haven't implemented it yet. We're working on it. That means completing the first, basically all the way up through the intermediate zip lines. If you complete the intermediate zip lines and all the things before that, you can get a front-end development certificate. The full stack certificate, we're going to start giving, it will no longer require completion of a nonprofit project. That will be optional. Of course, we strongly recommend the nonprofit projects, and we're starting some new ones right now. But basically, if you simply complete all the full curriculum, the first 800 hours, then you will be eligible for a full stack certificate. Of course, we're going to do our due diligence and verify you didn't plagiarize or anything like that, because it's critically important that you write your own code on all of these challenges, and we will verify those things before we issue certificates. Let's take a look at some other questions. Do you guys see any questions in the chat that jump out at you?
One person was mentioning, where's it gone? I'm trying to scroll your window. One person mentioned merchandise. Someone else mentioned your beard again. And someone else wants microtransactions for hints.
Microtransactions for hints. Yeah, there are a lot of good ideas here. We probably will skip money completely, like no involvement of money, no tipping of other campers, just because what we're trying to create here is what I'll call a goodwill economy, where basically it's not about money, it's about time. You're volunteering your time to someone to help them in the challenge room, and your brownie points in many respects is a representation of how hard you've worked on the curriculum and how many people you've helped in the chat room, and how many interesting things you've shared on Camper News. Money is a completely separate thing that we don't really want to get too involved with. But on the topic of merchandising. If you haven't seen Spaceballs, there's this hilarious Mel Brooks. He's dressed up as Yoda. It's great. That's an awesome scene. We do plan to create some cool freeCodeCamp t-shirts and sell those, and sell maybe even freeCodeCamp hoodies and mugs and stuff like that. Of course, that's just like if you want to support us and if you want to get cool swag, we'll throw that up. We have the designer of all the freeCodeCamp assets I think you've ever seen, like everything on freeCodeCamp.org. All that art was designed by a gentleman named Ryan Malm, who is in Omaha, Nebraska. He's quite a skilled illustrator and designer, and he's creating some cool designs, and we're going to do some exciting stuff with that next month, probably where you vote for which design should be the first freeCodeCamp t-shirt, for example.
Camperbot t-shirts for the win.
Yeah, we'll see. Camperbot may be incorporated, but these will probably be original designs. And we'll just put it to a vote within the community. And then if you want, you can get a freeCodeCamp t-shirt, and it should be pretty cool. And that should give us a little bit of money, because we'd much rather like give you everything for free. freeCodeCamp's never going to charge anybody to use freeCodeCamp. We're never going to charge the nonprofits. We're never going to sell your data. We're never going to, hopefully, never put up ugly banner ads or anything like that. Like, if we can have t-shirts on the side and people can buy t-shirts, and that gives us enough money to keep our servers spinning, and the core contributors like eating burritos at least, like that's good for the shorter term. So that's definitely something we're interested in doing. Let's see what else is coming on. Upgrade to Eric Elliott level JS developer, only $2,999. That sounds like a pretty good Udemy course. If you want to create a Udemy course, all you need to do is have it be free for a day and promote it on Reddit, and then the next day you just set the price to $2,999 and say, thousands of people have taken this course. You should pay $2,999 to do so too.
So one good question I saw is that this person's contributed a few times to the repo, and was wondering, how do they get added to a contributor group?
How do you get added to a contributor group? Well, excellent question. Berkeley and I have talked about this a lot. Berkeley, did we create that document, that wiki article yet?
For issue moderators?
Yes. Yeah. Do we create that yet? The issue moderator?
The issue moderators wiki is up.
Okay, great. Let me find that and I'll drop that in the chat. Wiki. Let's see. Issue moderator. I'll just search it.
Just issue -mod.
Okay, so issue mods. So Berkeley authored this 16 hours ago. It's pretty recent. So I'll just drop this in the chat. But yeah, essentially we have Ben Shanker and Abusak, or who's the other Abbas?
Right now it's just Ben.
Okay, so we can add additional people too that have been actively helping moderate our issues. And we say moderate, basically they're commenting and getting more information, and they're determining whether they're duplicates, and they're closing issues that are no longer relevant, for example. And they're trying to do so in as polite a manner as possible. That's one of the requirements, is if you comment on issues, please be very polite. Keep in mind that many issues, it's like the person who created that issue, it's their first time to ever create a GitHub issue. But I posted that in the chat, so you can check that out. Can we get time in UTC of the live stream? Somebody asked. That's a good question. I'll be honest. About 80%, well, about 50% of FreeCodeCamp's campers right now are in the United States, and about 2/3 of people in the United States live on the East Coast. So that's why we do all of our times in Eastern Standard Time, is because like probably a good 40% of or 30% of our campers are like that's their local time. So they don't even have to think about it. Everybody else has to think about it. I mean, even though Berkeley and I are in San Francisco, we still put Eastern Standard Time and we just adapt to that. We do it for the utilitarian reason that seems to be where most people are that are currently using FreeCodeCamp. Of course, as we grow as a community, that will cease to exist. And then sometime in the future, UTC may make better sense. But I don't even know what UTC time zone I'm in, frankly. Like I just don't really use UTC.
We should just use Unix timestamps.
Yeah, just use a Unix timestamp. Then everybody can go and use a Unix timestamp converter. Actually, that won't address the time zone issue, though, will it? Because that's just like
Unix timestamps don't have time zones. They're standard.
Oh, okay.
So we just pick a number of seconds into the future.
Yeah. So what we can do is like to not have to use that. We'll just say FreeCodeCamp's live stream will start in 60,543 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
It's also very quick. There is a widget in Google for converting things. You can do whatever.
So
5 p.m. EST to GMT, and it does it straight away for you. It tells you. You don't have to go to the site.
So I use this thing. You can probably see my screen. I use this thing called Figure It Out, and it just shows me some different relevant time zones. And I'll add GMT here.
You probably have to put in yeah.
Is that so? Is it?
Yeah, that's fine. No, not going to the United States. I think that says BST will be fine.
BST is that the mean time basically? Where
I think
is?
So. Dublin's definitely on GMT anyway. If you want to use that, that's what I use.
Oh my gosh, they don't have UTC in this app. Okay, that's an issue request. I'm gonna create an issue there because they should definitely have that. So we're like way over time. Let's just keep going through these questions real quick. I want to answer as many as possible. Anyone have a really hard time with the bonfires? Yes, that's why we're creating the bonfires. Camperbot hints. What about code we write when working with another camper? Well, on our FreeCodeCamp, you have the option of including them as your pair, and basically the code will be attributed to both you and the person you pair programmed on, and that starts with the bonfires, and that also includes the zip lines and the base jumps. So we do encourage pair programming, and if you do it, you don't need to go and have the other person submit a duplicate thing. If you pair programmed with somebody and you list it as pair programming, then we're going to assume that you did it together, and that's totally cool. It's totally cool to collaborate on code. What we don't want is you Googling bonfire solution, blah, 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 mutations, and grabbing the solution and pasting it in and submitting it and moving on. We don't want people to do that. Obviously, the solutions are all over the place. We're even throwing the solutions up ourselves, and we're just having a spoil alert. But you should be writing your own code. It's like the old aphorism, if you cheat, the only person you're cheating is yourself. And that's how we feel at FreeCodeCamp. We're not going to try to prevent that sort of stuff because, honestly, it's up to you. Only you can prevent cheating. Is there any game development going on? How do I check my brownie points? So if you could just go to freecodecamp.com, and if you're signed in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see your brownie points.
One interesting thing that seems to be put up is that there's one person mentioning a thread on Reddit they were lamenting is the word that he used about the fact that people, noobs with 2 zeros obviously, were being thrown into non-profit projects and taking jobs away from paid developers and then leaving bad code for them to follow up with. And I thought I'd just quickly comment on that. Sure. That I don't know if this is the case in the States, but certainly here when I'm based in Ireland, and I'm imagining the States as well, because this is the reality of the world, is that very few people actually understand what programming is, what developing is, or what any of this means. there are a huge number of what I'd call snake oil salesmen who claim to know what they're doing and charge people ridiculous money for solutions that they don't need or aren't worth as much as they're charging. And they have really, really bad, unmaintainable code. And there's people who make livings out of fixing these issues. I know I've done free work for people with WordPress where a developer had done really sloppy job with the code base and you have to go through and figure it out and try and reverse engineer to fix it using their sloppy system. So I think that at least if they're going to freeCodeCamp, they have a certain minimum quality standard because we vet people before they go into the non-profits. And then the non-profits decide that they're happy with the solution and that we actually do check if it's not a seeming pile of whatever. So there is like a minimum quality guarantee. So it's not like these people they don't have college degrees, they don't have 20 years experience. But what they do have is that they have a good standard of programming in JavaScript, and they know how to use Node, they know how to use Bootstrap, they know how to use all these technologies, which are really common and create a really nice solution. And so that would be my response to people who complain about people being thrown out. Not to mention that anyone who goes through a boot camp is technically the same, except they haven't done a non-profit project.
Right.
And they regard it as being great. So I think we're guaranteeing a bit more.
Yeah. And just on that note, we definitely want to help nonprofits. If you know nonprofits that are interested in getting some free coding work done, please send them our way. We have a nonprofit project page where they can sign up. We want to help nonprofit projects. I just want to point out, though, that Free Code Camp is first and foremost for campers, not for nonprofits. Nonprofits are a means to an end. They are a way for our campers to get real-life, hands-on, practical experience working with either legacy code or building something from scratch and doing it in an agile environment and basically getting the full kind of sprint by sprint workflow down. And it's two campers working together. It's a agile project manager. It's a stakeholder from a nonprofit who deeply understands the problem that our campers are trying to solve. It's basically the equivalent of like, a contract job that you would get on Upwork or a project that you would do working at, like a big development consultancy. Essentially, you're going to have this project and you're going to do it. So it's extremely good practical experience for our campers. That's why we do it. We do want to help nonprofits, but our primary customer, if you will, for the nonprofit projects is not the nonprofits. It's the campers. And we'll look out for the campers' best interests in that. And for that reason, we're extremely selective about whom we help. We're not going to solve every single nonprofit's problem, but we will be able to solve a lot of problems for a lot of good, proven nonprofits who know exactly what they want and know exactly what their end users need. So please do tell them about this. If they just go to freecodecamp.com/nonprofits, or there's a prominent button from freecodecamp.com if you're not authenticated. Let me show you. It's right here. My nonprofit needs coding help, and that'll take them here. And then they can it takes like 2 seconds to fill out this Google form, and then they'll get a response from us within a few days. And again, we're really selective about that. So don't worry. All the nonprofits you're going to work with are going to be very well vetted, and it's not going to be a waste of your time. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that's the case. Real quick, Jay Cronkite said that he sees a lot of other related but unaffiliated groups that would benefit from knowing about Free Code Camp. Please tell your local Coder Dojo group, tell your local hackerspace, all these different organizations. We want to provide a cool curriculum and a supportive online community to supplement their activities. Free Code Camp is all about helping people and just increasing the volume of people out there that are coding well and understand best practices and feel confident in their coding ability. Because we've got this massive skill gap, this massive shortfall of people that actually are good at coding, that is basically holding back government in many countries. I mean, you look at like the whole healthcare.gov debacle. I mean, that's basically just bad software engineering practices because there aren't enough good software engineers, and they're not running the place like they should be. So we just want to increase the total aggregate software engineering talent in the world. That's our goal. So we're happy to work with anybody who's also aligned in that direction. And it doesn't matter if they make money, if they, whatever they do, we don't really care. We just want to help. Let's see. Any other questions that jumped out at you all?
Teaching to fish, an interesting one, alright. Yeah, I think we've got all the big ones. Unless someone asks another one quick to pop in at the end, I think we've caught everything. Pretty
Great.
much.
I think we've caught everything. So very quickly, BST apparently is GMT +1. So if you have British Standard Time, that's essentially 1 hour faster than GMT. For those who are curious, I learned something there. All right. Well, I think we've talked about a whole lot of different things today. Just to recapitulate what we discussed, we talked about our simplified portfolio pages. We talked about our code storage functionality. A lot of these things are still being improved actively. Camper News, Creative Commons licenses. Please go hog wild with our logo. Feel free to mash it up with whatever cartoon characters or memes. Loop detection works. Thank you very much for fixing that, Berkeley and Ben. And Bonefire hints are coming soon. Please contribute to our wiki. Please submit pull requests. And of course, please tell everyone you know that you think would benefit from knowing about FreeCodeCamp. Because it's just the saddest thing in the world when people are like, oh, why haven't I heard about this? Like, I've been trying to learn on my own for like the last year or two. Or I guess if it was more than 10 months, then they wouldn't have heard about us anyway. Because we're only 10 months old. But just tell people about us and send them our way, and we will do everything we can to make sure they do not have a negative experience and that they do not regret you telling them about this. If anything, they'll probably be like, wow, you just saved me a ton of time and energy. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in to this live stream. And we will be streaming a lot more in the coming weeks. Also, just a quick note, you probably already read the blog post. If you didn't, I'll just post it in here. We just really wanted to come out and thank everyone for bearing with us last week with the slowness of the page and some of the issues. We do not plan to roll out massive sweeping changes like we did ever again, hopefully. Hopefully it'll all be done incrementally. Berkeley's been hard at work creating kind of a workflow and deployment practices that will allow us to rapidly get code into production so we don't have this huge bubble of features waiting to be pushed. So thank you everyone for your understanding. Thank you everyone who submitted issues, who helped us quickly detect and fix a lot of the problems. We still have about 300 issues, but we have about 30 pull requests to look at too. So if anybody wants to stick around and keep watching, we'll continue to do some pull requests. We'll turn on some music, and we'll just keep cranking. But this concludes our official live stream. So thank you again, everyone, for tuning in.
One thing I thought I'd mention quickly before people go is that Quincy's at Quincy Larson on Gitter, I'm at Ben McMahon 100, and Berkeley's at Berkeley True. We are on there pretty much all the time. Poor Quincy has about 1 trillion messages, so he might not be able to read some of them as quickly as me and Berkeley can. But if you have like a pressing thing or a suggestion that you would like to see added, particularly the challenges, I'll take them.
That's what my Gitter looks like right now. I need to go through all this. Sorry if I'm slow to respond. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and just post those in. Berkeley True. Berkeley is essentially our CTO. He's like making a lot of the infrastructural decisions. Ben is Bing Man 100 is instrumental to our curriculum development and also a lot of our feature development. And then me, Quincy Larson. If you message me, I will respond. In fact, I do basically all the support. So if you're asking for help with something, chances are you're talking to me. Unless you're doing it in an issue, in which case you could be asking, dealing with anybody. But I answer the emails. I respond to the tweets. Sorry, I haven't been responding very regularly recently. And I also am available on Facebook and certainly on Quora, my favorite place other than freeCodeCamp. So thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, please, or if you haven't, I think, followed us, click the follow button. If you haven't subscribed to us on YouTube, click the subscribe button. And that way you'll get notifications when we push new content out. So we're going to go down for about 45 seconds. I'm going to make a pit stop, and I'll be right back, and I'll start doing some pull requests. Berkeley, Ben, either of you interested in sticking around for that?
I gotta go. I gotta help my brother move to Santa Cruz.
All right. How about you, Ben? Can you stick around?
I can hang around, sure, yeah.
Great. All right. Well, Berkeley, thank you very much for joining us. Ben and I will be right back. We're going to stop the stream. So we've got a nice cut there, and I'll restart it. I apologize for the Taco Bell commercial or whatever you're about to see.